Hello racers, we are back, and this week we will be talking about the meta. So let's go to the table of contents. So first, Sip will be telling us about what you can expect in the upcoming PQ meta. So what cards, what bases, and what archetypes you can encounter, and you need to be prepared for. Next, we will be talking about the rise and fall of leaders after the Galactic. So what leaders will be more popular, what leaders will be less popular, and what you should train against when you are preparing for the tournament. Nextly, we will be talking about sideboard. First, what are the staples, and then what are the specific counters to specific archetypes. And lastly, we will be talking about the tournaments we will be going to, so where you can meet us, and when you can compete against us. Okay, so let's start with the upcoming PQ meta.
So going to the PQ season, there are a few staples currently in the meta, which already saw a lot of play during the Galactic, like Force Throw. It saw play in over half of the decks. So yeah, very popular card. Anakin, another very good card. As it turns out, it's quite easy to enable his -6/-6, and there are many different ways to do that. There is Kylo, who can discard heroic upgrades. Or whenever the opponent plays a Force on you, you can discard an off-aspect card like a Force Lightning in Han Blue's case. And there are even some out-of-aspect heroic cards, such as Kia Mundi in Talzin, which are very powerful. So yeah, it's quite easy to enable Anakin's -6/-6, and when you can do that, he is unstoppable. When it comes to bases, we have the Tarkin Town and Force bases, which see the most play by far. There's also Data Vault and ECL, but they are slightly less popular than those. And there are a few other cards like the Millennium, which is an example of basically heroic space aggro decks, which with the top 8 of Matthew, who top 8'd the Galactic with the Hunt for Tarkin Town. I believe that this archetype can see a rise in popularity. Maybe not necessarily this specific combination of Han 4 with Tarkin Town, but maybe like decks like Kazuda, basically maybe like Han 4 but with Lake Country. I feel like there are a few variation of the heroic space aggro decks. There is the Vader, which sees play right now mostly with ACL and Data Vault. Super Laser Blast, so mostly Iden Heart Control, and Pillage, which sees a lot of play when paired with Force Throw decks, basically, to discard the opponent's hand.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's talk about the leaders. So let's talk about the biggest rise for me. It will be Kylo Tarkin Town, but also Kylo Data Vault, I think, should be here as well. But it's mostly Kylo Tarkin Town. After the amazing performance it did on Galactic Championship, I think it will continue to see a lot of play, especially when it is just a really fun deck to play and an archetype that is kind of new to Star Wars. So a lot of people will be trying it. So you definitely need to be prepared to face it. And this is a deck that it's not that easy to play against if you're not prepared. And the second leader for me that should get a lot more popular is Quinlan. After what Wu and Junior from Bota Network did in the Galactic, they showed that this leader is as powerful as it's ever been. And it's still, for me, the best heroic Force Throw deck. Especially with the fact that it utilized Tarkin Town to the fullest potential. Yeah,
and one thing I wanted to also clarify with Kylo, a lot of botans said during the Galactic or even after that, Kylo is only a deck for that specific tournament, and I agree to some extent. There are ways to counter it, and also if you learn how to play it against it, it's easier. But I believe that there are gonna be quite a lot of people who will just play the deck because they saw it, so they want to try it during the at least the early PQ season. So maybe the August mostly, but maybe going to the September, October, maybe the Kylo will maybe fall off because people try to play those counters for the deck, because I feel like going to August PQs, people still might not play the parliamentarians in the sideboard. I could be wrong on that, but yeah, that's what I'm expecting at least.
Yeah, I think in the first few weeks he will definitely be a big part of the meta. Okay, so next we have Cat Bane. Cat Bane is like for me the part of Tarkin Town trio, and like recent performances just show that this is a good strategy. It's really easy to keep Force deck off Force because of Tarkin Town, so you can counter the second part of like the second big part of the meta by playing Tarkin Town leaders, and Cad is with Kylo the only two you can play in Villainous. Then we have Talzin. To be honest, I think she shouldn't be on the rise because the current like changes in the meta doesn't really benefit playing her. But a lot of people might try to want to play the deck list that we built for the Galactic Championship. It did perform in the tournament, and I still think it's an amazing deck. It requires a lot of practice and work put to make her like playable. So I think she will be rising at the beginning of the PQ season, but she should be going down because for me the current meta doesn't really benefit her that much.
Well, basically, what changes is the fact that Talzin was a very good counter to Han Blue and Han Green, which going to the Galactic we were expecting to see a lot, but I feel like the Han Blue and Han Green are a little bit overhyped, and they'll see fall when it comes to their popularity. Other deck which Talzin was is very good at countering is Vader Yellow, who also will probably drop in popularity. And there are decks that are rising in popularity, which Talzin can struggle sometimes against, like the Iden Data Vault, who so almost no play. Like at the Galactic, there are a few people who brought Iden with Data Vault, but I am expecting to see more people playing her. So yeah, I think the meta might not be the most easy for Talzin, but we'll see.
Yeah. So next we have Iden, Iden Data Vault or Iden Heart Control. This is the Heart Control archetype is always less played at the beginning of the season, and it rises up as the meta develops. And I think the performance that Iden did in Galactic, even though it was really not played at all, was good enough so a lot of people will try it. And I think it right now, especially with Kylo and with like bigger part of the meta being less value oriented and more of a tempo oriented, Iden just gets a lot better. And for a lot of decks, it's almost unwinnable matchups. Unwinnable matchup. Like Talzin is one of the decks that really struggle versus this combination of colors, and the slower, the harder it is for Talzin to win. And next, Han 4. For me, this is the best space deck at the moment. It's much harder to counter than Vader, and it does really similar like degenerate stuff with incredibly big ships and pushing a lot of damage that you cannot really counter. But it's at the same time it's really fun to play. So I will, for me, I think we will see a lot more of this kind of strategy, especially that I don't think we will see a lot of Vader in the upcoming tournaments. Okay, so Sip, let's tell us what leaders will fall in popularity.
Yeah. So first, we already kind of talked about the Han Blue, Han Green. As I mentioned before, they're going into Galactic. We're expecting to see a lot of them, and there were a lot of them. But this deck is not as good as something like Jenga or Boba were before they got banned. So yeah, this leader was slightly overhyped going to the Galactic season, and because people are like really playing around that deck by like being prepared basically with the deck that they are playing. I don't think this deck is as oppressive when you're ready for it. We might end up in a meta where people are like starting to shift their sideboard cards for the new decks like the Kylos, like the tempo decks like the Cat Bane and the Queen Lance. In which case the Han Blue Han Green might come back, but yeah, Right now, I'm expecting that deck to fall in popularity.
Yeah, I will
Besides
only add. Sorry, I will only add that it's not. We don't mean that the deck will not be popular. I think it will still be one of the most popular decks in the meta, but it shouldn't be 20% of the popularity in the next tournaments.
Yeah, and this concept is applicable to basically this whole slide, whole list. Like the fact that Han 4 will rise in popularity doesn't mean that it's gonna be like the fifth most popular deck. It's just gonna see more play because before the Galactic it saw almost no play. With Sabine, also a deck that, yeah, this deck is like has been around basically since the game was released, and right now with the set 5, it didn't got much, so a lot of people are just shifting away from Sabine. She's not a terrible deck by any mean. I know Beton has some plans to maybe play her, but we'll see how he performs with it. But yeah, that's basically Sabine. Next we have Kira. Kira is basically very poorly positioned in the current meta. Her basically with her deploy, the problem is that there are a lot of 4-power units. So she sometimes struggles with what Kira wants to do is deploy, kill something, but stay alive. So kill like a 3-power unit and then set up like a huge barrage. Like that's what Kira wants to do in a lot of cases, but it's very tough to do in the current meta. Also, there is a lot of value, like Yadimundi is a lot of card draw, so yeah, it's kind of hard to play Kira, and most people are shifting to other leaders in blue villainy. Anakin is another example. I feel like Anakin's not as good at utilizing the force mechanic as something like Han Blue is, and he's largely getting countered by the same things as Han 2. So that's the problem with Anakin. And with Vader, at this point, everyone almost plays the bombing runs in the red decks, so it's very hard to navigate those matchups with Vader. And he struggles against other decks like Talzin as well. More and more people are figuring out ways to beat Vader. But Vader is one of those decks that if people, it's kind of like hard control. If like, in order to beat Vader, you need to dedicate very specific cards in the sideboard in order to beat it in a lot of cases. So if people stop playing Vader, it might come out like on like a sector or regional in like 2 months, and then it will like all of a sudden win a tournament. Like the Bosk won the Liverpool sector qualifier because no one was really prepared for it, and that way it can perform. But it needs, like, right now it's overplayed, and that's why people are ready for it. So in that environment, it really struggles basically.
Yeah, I will also add that it also struggles versus like the Kylo Tarkintown deck, which, since it will be the more popular leader coming, like this setup is like really hard for Vader. The same is for Talzin. Talzin has also a really good matchup into Vader. So like with this combination of everybody is prepared for him and having bombing runs, and 2 of really popular leaders have really easy counter without even bombing runs, he will just not be as strong as he was before. But maybe someone create a list that can go around it, and the deck will come back to be even stronger. Okay, let's go to sideboard. So here we created like the collage of the most popular sideboard cards, like the staples of sideboard. So let's go through them, and when do you want to incorporate them? So first is Restock. Restock is basically sideboarded for soft and hard controls in the mirror matches. And right now, also sometimes Han Blue can have it in sideboards versus the soft control and hard control matchups, because as it turns out, milling Han to blue is not as difficult as you might imagine. So sometimes having one restock in the sideboard can just save you a few hard matches. Palpatine's Return, it's really well positioned into the force throw meta. If they force you to discard 7 or 8 drop a force unit, you can then play it for 6, and this is a tempo gain that can come back you into the game, especially that the decks that play those colors, so villainous green plus blue most often don't really have that powerful 6-mana plays outside of Anakin or ECL Vader, but ECL Vader you can do once, and then if you are not able to do it, then Palpatine's Return is just a really, really good answer to discard decks.
Yeah, and for the upgrade hate cards, we have the usual suspects: the Sibling Fang Fighter, Confiscate, Bamboozle, Kid Fist as a sprite, and there is also System Shock that is, I guess, missing. But yeah, those cards are very good at countering all of the upgrades. Basically, both pilots and the weapons which we see, which see play, like the Fall Lightsabers, General's Blades. Having an upgrade hate for those is quite relevant currently. Also against the Kylo, the upgrade hate like Bamboozle and Kid Fistos at the sprite, which can completely destroy all of the upgrades from Kylo, are very powerful. There's also the Rival's Fall, which fulfills quite similar role as the Kid Fistos Ether sprite and Bamboozle, and also Waylay, which sees play in decks like Quinlan to basically do very similar things.
Yeah, and next we have like the 4 cards that counter slow matchups. So whenever you're playing red or red villainous, if you also want to add Devastator, but even without Devastator, Kret Dragon, Planetary Bombardment, and Cham Syndulla versus every single ramp slow grindy matchups, and even versus matchups that are not ramp but will go past 7-8 resources, Cham Syndulla is still a really powerful card. And those are just your safety net for those hard control matchups. So if you expect, or if your meta is like heavy into Iden Palpatine decks, those cards are just really, really powerful at stopping those strategies. And I just wanted to add, because we have the upgrade removal, the System Shock is a really fun card at the moment with all the 2/2 shielded units. It have an additional like strength of just killing the 2/2 shielded. If you're playing Tarkin Town or like even Quinlan, you can go turn 2 System Shock plus 2 drop to kill a 2/2 shielded unit. So it's a good card just to counter the current meta, even if your opponent doesn't play any like upgrade cards, they just have shielded units.
You can also play it in Talzin to deal the 1 damage, destroy the shield on the 2/2 shielded, and then finish it off with Talzin's ability.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about targeted sideboard. So let me start with Kylo. Of course, you can add here the Bamboozle and Ether Sprite for upgrade, but 2 cards for me that really that this deck really struggle against are Aggravated Parliamentarian. It's the easiest counter to Kylo. It completely breaks their flip. Really good Kylo players can play around it to keep some of the more powerful upgrades in hand and discard them after if they know you're playing it. But even if they are playing around it, it still slows them really heavily and can put you in the position that you can just finish the game because they can only flip as an 8/8 and not as an like 13/13 with a kill potential. And the second card that not a lot of people play, but I think it will be more and more popular, is Seasoned Fleet Admiral. In current meta, draw is really relevant for the first time. So a 2/4, like 1/4 with grade 1, so it's basically a 2/4 with a really powerful ability, because whenever your opponent draws a card outside of their like standard draw, you can put an experience token on a unit. It doesn't need to be Fleet Admiral. You can put it on any one of your units. It can put your opponent in the situation that, for example, versus Kylo, they will not want to discard any of their upgrades. So, and without their discard, this deck is really hard to play on curve, because you rely on that discard to get the cards that you really want, and if your opponent cannot do it, it's so much easier to play against it. and if they do it, you're just getting bigger and bigger unit that is so hard to remove.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to also add with the parliamentarian is the fact that in order to make him shine against Kylo, you need to, besides playing him, you need to also put a pressure on Kylo, because if you play parliamentarian, let's say on 6 or 5 resources, like the best possible moment in the game to delay Kylo, you also need to put pressure, because if you don't do that, the Kylo might just not deploy on 7 and just wait a little bit, a few more rounds to get some upgrades again on the discard pile. And at that point, parliamentarian is not doing as much, so basically you need to put a lot of pressure on the Kylo and combine that with the parliamentarian in order to counter Kylo Kylo the most. If you are a slower deck that can't really put as much pressure, like a slow control deck, then you are probably better off playing cards like Rival's Fall to kill Kylo that way. And yeah, so next we have the pilots, so Vader and Han. Bombing Run, like obviously a very good card against the Vader yellow. Everyone knows about this card at this point. And there is also the Entrenched, which is also a very powerful card in blue decks to counter the pilots. A lot of Vaders shift away from playing Overwhelming Barrage in Vader yellow. I believe the guy who did top 8 didn't play the Overwhelming Barrage at all. I think he was, I think it was Matthew Jacobina, yes. And he didn't play the Barrage at all. So even if you entrenched him, even though the unit will have a lot of power, they might just not play Barrage at all. And basically having the entrenched to slow the opponent down is very powerful. And the last card in the current meta, which display in Kylo, is the Mixed Mayfair. Having some sort of way to remove him is also very relevant. Like if you allow Kylo to get value out of him every single turn, he's a huge problem. One of the ways how you can counter him with Vader Yellow actually is by playing the Speeder. Speeder is a vehicle, so the ambush allows you to get the Vader trigger on turn 1, even if the Kylo player starts with the mix. Speeder will stay alive at 1 HP, so the Kylo player needs to either use Tarkin Town or kill it other way. So it's a very efficient way to remove him. And there is also Daring Raid, which can be included in the red decks, which don't have other ways to remove the mix.
Yeah, I will also add that Bombing Run is also really good at stopping Han 4 and basically any space decks, because most of the space units, especially the early ones for 1 or 2 mana, only have 3 HP. And with Mix, Land Speeder can also be played in Quinlan, and a lot of Quinlan already play the card, and it's still a really good answer for Mix. And Daring Raid, even like in decks like Sabine, Mix is a really big problem, and Daring Raid can be an answer if you are playing other 1-drops to like weather the annoying storm of 2 damage every single turn. Okay, and next let's talk about the tournaments we are going to attend. So this weekend we are both at the Gdansk PQ. This is my home city. It's at Ale Planszówki. Next, I will be attending the Malmo Open. It's one of the biggest, if not the biggest, Nordic tournaments of the year. I hope it will be an amazing event and have a really, really great time there. I know Sip is not going, but then we will be going together to the next, like both of the PQs in Poland, so in Katowice and in Poznań, which is Sip's home city. So you can meet us there. We are also considering going to some of the German or Italian PQs, but we didn't really decide on which yet. And we also didn't know how much of a grind we will be doing this season. Especially that the announcement for regional and sectional are not still there.
And also for the Patreon update, we are still considering our options. Like we haven't decided on in which form we want to do it exactly. We're also considering some other options like the Meta 5, but we are still discussing the details. But once we get there, you will know for sure.
Yeah. So give us a little bit more time so we can give you as much value as possible with it. And I hope for everybody to have an amazing PQ season, to have a really, really great close games, and for everybody that wants to qualify for the Galactic Championship so we can play there next year. See ya!